Hello, everybody. Well, I'm delighted to be with you today. Thank you for this opportunity, Dan, Yaron, Chris, and Jeff. Thanks for joining from Oracle. Excited to discuss some of the exciting developments in change management and training that we've delivered with JDE. So, as in collaboration with Celtics, Oracle University, JD Edwards Product Development really built this solution and tailored it to transform your user learning experience, and it's built on Oracle's digital adoption platform, and which actually boasts an impressive 7 million users, and it's been rigorously tested with on over 40 applications. So as Dan and Jeffrey will talk about, it's OGL is not just for JDE. It can be used for many different applications, and you can get that benefit throughout your business. So, as you know, we went to a quarterly release cadence several years back, and that's been instrumental in driving the evolution or ongoing evolution of JD Edwards, Enterprise One 9.2. And our product strategy, specifically our focus on our digital platform, is what has really empowered, I think, users with cutting edge capabilities such as Orchestrator, which really helps you streamline and automate a lot of your business processes within Enterprise One. But it's not, not only that it enhances the efficiency, but it also fosters this idea, this culture of adaptability and I'd say agility. Everybody's thinking with an agile mindset these days. However, that agile mindset, that rapid pace of innovation actually creates quite a bit of challenge when it comes to change management and in our case, training, right? Now, technology can obviously play a role, but what's equally, if not more important, is the focus on developing people as well as processes to ensure, successful outcomes. Right. So that integration between people, process, and technology, that's really what forms the cornerstone of our strategy that we'll share with you today. At Oracle, we stand committed to providing solutions that not only enhance, I'd say, user adoption, but we're also keen on proactively raising awareness of all the new features and better ways to operate, to work, basically our job is to make your job easier on a daily basis. And that's why I'm excited to introduce today's webinar around Oracle guided learning for JD Edwards, or as we like to call it, OGL for JDE. So OGL for JDE really represents, Dan and I were talking about it in our little intro. Hopefully some saw that, this last week. It really represents a paradigm shift in training methodologies. It sort of overturns what you'd say is the conventional approach of maybe training individuals one time in a classroom and hoping that at last that they'll be able to somehow apply what they learned in classroom to the everyday, ongoings and make that transition. Instead, OGL serves as a catalyst for continuous learning, right? Not that just one time, but an ongoing, kind of a culture of continuous learning that it fosters. And then it assists users with embracing, kind of continuous innovation and ensuring adherence to policies and procedures, which really, again, serve to maximize your success. So it's important to recognize that OGL for JDE it's not just a tool. It's actually, it's better to look at it as a strategic investment in your future of your business, because it allows you to embrace continuous learning and in continuous adoption. And it's through that embracing of continuous learning and adoption that you really unlock, I'd say, new opportunities. And that's what really allows you to stay ahead of the curve in, as we know, today's rapid evolving landscape.
Want to talk a little bit about we've been spending a lot of time. We've been working really closely with Jason Matthews, who's a senior director, and with Celtics to understand the specific needs to use OGL guided learning on JDE. We've invested a lot of time and money on tools and services for OGL. And this is one of the biggest piece here. With this partnership that we've talked about, one of the biggest points that I want to drive home is that we have put together a plan, go to market strategy to work with our customers across the globe. I really want us to be thinking that OGL, this DAP platform, is really more like a GPS. It is there to guide you, tell you where to go. So think about knowing where the traffic is at and really start thinking about where are the challenges going to be, right? When a user comes into the system, you can develop OGL to really provide this in-app coaching guidance, right? And it's only for and build it for only when a user is landing on a specific page, when they are doing a specific process, right? So it's very contextualized for that end user to really make it customized to that end user, right? It's there's 63% reduced support requests, right? We talked about the faster adoption that's happening. This 52% faster cloud migration and adoption of Oracle applications, releasing brand new functionality, right? 40% enhanced change and training team efficiency. So making sure that your team has all the things that they need in their toolbox from day one, right, is extremely important. 3 months to pay back on investments. We have over 7 million users across with 1,200 plus customers and ongoing. These are just some examples of some of the customers that we have worked with. This is with Fulton Hogan, which we'll talk about a little bit later as well. This is just their experience and some feedback that we have received.
I'm tasked with taking us through the actual software demonstration. I'm going to do this in a number of different ways, covering off a number of different personas. So I think first and foremost, what I'd like to showcase is the end user experience. So the biggest impact by far with OGL for JD Edwards is the end user experience and the guidance and coaching and those guardrails Jeffrey spoke about, the GPS context that the solution provides you. So I'll spend some time taking you through a couple of different use cases there. I'm also going to go through my personal favorite feature of the solution is the insights and the auditability and tracking and general insights that you get from the analytics. I'm then going to take you through some of the content creation and management process, showcase some of the features that OGL has in relation to translation into languages, the ease of which content can be created. I'll talk about the work that we've done from a Celtics perspective, building out all of the standard process guides that form the basis for the solution. And I'll also showcase some of the AI capability that Oracle have introduced into this user story. Or the scenario that I'm going to run here is that I'm potentially a new person to the organization or a person who's been in the organization for a while, and I'm going to attempt to enter a purchase order. We've got Oracle guided learning configured in this environment. Sort of the giveaway is this the widget that appears on the right hand side. We'll get to that shortly, but I'll just show you some of the proactiveness of the solution and how it can prompt users for help and really drive that assistance in the application. Sort of Jeffrey spoke about learning in the application, learning in the flow of work. That's exactly what we're going to showcase now. So scenario here is I'm going to enter a purchase order. So I am a little bit familiar with JDE. I've logged into the application. And what we've configured in this particular environment is, and for the purposes of this demonstration, a feature which it sort of sits there and tracks based on a period of time in activity in the application. Now, for the purposes of this demonstration, that was 1 second, but it can offer, and I also configured it to deactivate as well, but it can proactively sit there and monitor if a user's sitting in an application and say, well, hey, they look a bit unsteady. Should I prompt them for some level of assistance, which is what just popped up in front of me then automatically. If I hit yes, and this could be in a production environment, it could be in a non-production environment, I've essentially invoked OGL to guide and coach me through this particular transaction, which happens to be entering a stock-based purchase order. So what it's done now is it's basically removed my ability to do anything incorrect. I'm now following the bouncing ball, which is providing potentially detailed instructions of what to do in the application. So I've just hit the add button, And now it's launched into the purchase order header. This is not intended to be a training guide on how to enter a purchase order, but a purchase order header is presented. And now OGL, because I've requested help, it's being proactive in assisting me with the types of information I need to know to complete this specific transaction. So first thing I need to do is enter a supplier. So I'll do that just using some pre-canned data. And I'll hit the next button. We can configure that to be auto tab. There's no dramas there. The second field that I need to enter is the ship to information. I'm just going to enter some dummy data for that as well. And I'll just hit next. And now it's defaulting my branch plant. So that's okay. It's just making me aware of what that particular branch plant is. You may also notice there's a few other things appearing on the screen which are not normal. So those question marks. So they're what we call smart tips. So they're the ability for you to communicate to your users additional context around a particular field. So in this example, we're showcasing what is a supplier. I think most people understand what a supplier is, but they may not know your particular business process for how to onboard a supplier, how to validate a supplier, how to get them into the supplier master. So here's a prompt to say, well, if your supplier is not listed in the particular supplier master, then you need to talk to or complete an onboarding process. Here's a link to that particular process, which could be a link to your SharePoint or other documentation process. That's it for now. So I'm just going to complete the header and that'll take me into the detail. Again, it's giving me guardrails as to how to complete the transaction. So I can't click on anything but the tick button, which in this instance completes the purchase order header. And now I'm into the purchase order detail, at which point if I hit close now, the system's going to do two things. It's going to, because I've configured this guide to provide feedback. So one of the great things about the tool is you can pulse check or provide feedback on your actual training material. So in this example, I can provide feedback and I can provide text-based feedback as well, which is captured in an analytics that I'll show you a bit later. Really important when you want to remediate guides with errors or guides with issues or get some feedback on what's working and what's not working. So I said that was the first thing that we're doing. I'll just skip that. The second thing that's happening behind the scenes is it's actually tracked how far I progressed through that training guide. You noticed I bombed out or chose to exit halfway through or a percentage of the way through. That's really good from a KPI or learning development perspective to be able to track how far through the guides you're getting to gauge things such as potentially fatigue in terms of the guide's too long, too lengthy. You can start to track that particular information. So the next use case I'll show is really around onboarding, which is one of the primary use cases or problems that a digital adoption platform will enable you to solve. And OGL has some very powerful onboarding capability, which we're going to showcase now. So in this particular example, I've manually triggered this because I'm sort of playing a few different hats here, but this could be the experience for a user when they first log into non-production. So say, for example, PY. It could be PD. We can configure it to say, well, you have to do your onboarding in PY before you get issued access to production. For the purposes of today, let's just assume that this is PY. I've signed in for the first time. It knows that I'm a new person to the organization. It knows that I haven't signed into JDE before, such as the level of integration with JDE. It's going to communicate to me, welcome. Here's some general navigation stuff that you need to sit. And we're going to commence the onboarding process. So there's a few things that we can do with the onboarding process, and this is just some examples of what customers might choose to do. So we might use it to communicate the corporate policy. So like the delegated financial authority policy I spoke about before, you might have an overarching corporate policy, guiding principles. It's a good opportunity to introduce that to individuals. Again, that could be a PDF, it could be linked to an external website, SharePoint, whatever the case may be. We also support media and visual information. So you might have a video. This is clearly not the CEO talking about organizational strategy and core values. It's a copy of one of our webinars around OGL, but it can link to multimedia formats, which you can communicate through OGL. Again, great for training guides, as well as company announcements and the like. Once they've reviewed the corporate policy and seen the video, what we've configured is just a base navigation of a particular role. Now we know through the level of integration with JDE that this individual, I'm operating as a purchasing person. So it knows to deliver the purchasing specific fundamental training material. And that is by providing an overview of what the purchasing E1 page does. So if I just click on that, it's going to basically explain this is the core of your day-to-day businesses. This is where you run your reports. This is where you look at your watch list, KPIs, whatever the case may be. It's then going to ask me, and this is where we have the concept of task lists and tracking people's completion of certain components of the task list to drive that adherence or compliance around how are they confident and have they undertaken training onboarding to warrant or to obtain access to a production environment. So the next thing we're going to do here is launch the onboarding task list. It's a feature of OGL, which basically we can pre-configure a number of different guides that we would like them to execute. Here you can see there's 10 or so. Sorry, eight of those. This individual has completed one of them. So green means it's been completed. So the importance of that is that it's tracking behind the scenes a person's completion of a particular guide, which is important for the context I gave before about onboarding, compliance, ensuring that people have executed a particular training course before they get access to the corporate system, being JDE production. At the end of it, we can incorporate a survey or a questionnaire, which sort of is code for a test, which verifies that the individuals have A, completed the guides, and B, have a certain level of knowledge that is recorded. The results are recorded and captured through the analytics, which I'll show you shortly, to ensure that they're not just clicking through it blindly, they're actually observing it. So just to show you what a basic navigation may include, and this is part of our pre-built Celtics pre-built content that comes shipped with the application, it's basically going to orientate us with JDE. So all the usual things you'd expect around navigation, orientation, what are all these particular fields, what do they do? It's going to take us through the search. If you're choosing to use search, it's going to take us through the pull down in terms of how to access my system profile. And in essence, I've completed that particular guide, which is intended to be succinct and to the point. And then they'll just move on to the next one, move on to the next one, move on to the next one, so on and so forth until they get to the questionnaire or survey. I've completed that. So we've seen so far, and because it's onboarding, we want to get our people's feedback or their new employees' feedback in terms of the experience. I again have that 5-star rating capability. I can then also leave some input, which I'll show you in the analytics shortly. I won't do that right now. So we showed in application guidance and proactive, OGL being proactive in sensing or determining that you may need some help. I've showed you how to manually run a guide through the application, also generate it to PDF. We've looked at the onboarding capability. The final feature, and there are lots of features we won't touch on today, but the final feature I'll show, and I'll manually trigger this, is the messaging capability of OGL. So what we're displaying here, and again, this would typically, when you sign on to JDE, the system has the capability, again, due to the nature of the integration with JDE, to provide dynamic messaging to individuals, roles, so groups of people, or Star Public, your entire organization. So the scenario that we've got here is we've got a month-end month-end message which we want to communicate. We can configure it to be dynamic. So for example, 5 days before month-end, start to communicate to the finance team, to the supply team, to the purchasing team, whoever the case may be, a message that says month-end is approaching. Can you please ensure that you've got the following transactions completed or entered? And furthermore, each of these are links to the training guides on how to perform a sales update. So that you're providing them the notification to do a particular activity and the help to ensure that they know how to do that activity, as well as an opportunity to contact finance in this particular example if they need help. So that messaging capability is not just for the finance team at month end, but think about some of the other scenarios in terms of company announcements, system outages, UAT coming up, cutover weekends coming up. It's very powerful, and I'll show you in the content development. These messages take 3 minutes to create, publish, and communicate to your user community. So when we think about OGL, often people think about developing all their training material in the applications. There's lots of little tools and tips that we have that can be very agile and very deployed very quickly. One of which has been blipping away the entire time that I've been doing the demonstration. And there's a little, I won't go to it just yet, but the watch list icon, that flagpole has a what we call a beacon which is it's alerting me to the fact that there's something that someone wants to communicate. Watch list in this particular case. So back to Paul's earliest comment about the quarterly release cycle of JDE. There's a lot of functionality that's being deployed, and it's difficult for organizations. I think the tools are there to make the updates easier and consumable, but it's difficult to communicate those changes to your user community once they're in your environment. You've taken a new tools release. How do you communicate that you've activated watch lists, notifications, Cafe One, all those sorts of things? So OGL gives you the ability to provide, again, proactive alerts to users to say, hey, we've just activated notifications. Here's a short video on how it works. If you want to know more information, go out of here. And for JDE, so the short video I'm going to show you here is an example of OGL running on our our mobility solution or business process automation solution, which really shows how powerful the OGL solution can be in the context of this example, a mobile device. So we acknowledge that, training is not just something you do at your desktop, you do it at your mobile device, you do it on your iPad, you do it on all sorts of form factors. So OGL, you can see it's very simple and intuitive. It's just guiding the operator. This could be on a gun, this could be on an iPad. It's just guiding them as to what they need to enter, using that feature around beacons to guide them through a particular transaction. I'm going to go through my personal favorite feature of the solution is the insights and the auditability and tracking and general insights that you get from around what guides are being run, how engaged are your users, how many active users do you have that are consuming the training material, what are your top guides, what's your feedback. So we spoke about the 5 stars, or I showed the 5-star rating. It shows about the guides that have been run over a particular time. So that could be day, week, month, year, quarter, or a predefined date range, which I've specified. We can filter by application, module. There's a whole lot of stuff we can do. I ran that create purchase order guide, which you can see has been run 390 times. I can drill into that particular guide and it will give me insights or information about that guide. So I was at the organizational level, all my guides. Now I'm down in the create purchase order guide. So it shows me things like what users are running it, what time has been spent within the guide, how frequently are people dropping. To my earlier comment about the completion of steps, I purposely exited that guide halfway through so we can track how far through the guides people are getting. So we can do all those things I spoke about in terms of gauging fatigue and is the guide too long. And I can quickly see the feedback in which I'm capturing from my users. So in this particular example, I've got a bit of a mixed bag. I've got 5 stars and I've got a 1 star. That 1 star hasn't left any comments, but it just gives you the ability to quickly eyeball what the feedback is for the particular guide that you're looking at. Talking about feedback, I can do that at the organizational level. So again, across a defined date range, of which this is a year, I can see that my average feedback for my training material, which is a KPI the learning and development team will typically track, is 4.9 out of 5, which is excellent. I can see I've got 1 star rating and I've got 5 3-star ratings and the rest are 5 and 4. I can quickly drill into what those guides are. What those guides are with feedback and what the feedback is. So this guide, good content, we'd suggest we update this or enhance this, or there's a missing step, whatever the case may be. You get that insight, which is incredibly powerful. Analytics, there's a lot of other stuff we can do in terms of we can track what people are searching for, which is, again, one of my favorite features of OGL. So I commented earlier, when we're in the JDE application, we can, there's a very powerful search capability. Every time someone searches for training material, OGL is sitting there capturing that search term. And it gives you analytics around what's returning results, e.g. what's successful in the search retrieval, and also what's not successful in the search retrieval. And that's a leading indicator to say, well, if someone's looking for P4210, but you don't have any training material for that, people are continually searching for that, it's probably worthwhile some content for P4210, which some of us will know was sales order entry. Again, with the Steltex IP, you get a rapid start to your process training guide. With some of the stuff that Oracle give you, there's actually best practices or pro forma communication plans, use cases around perhaps there's an organizational structure change, perhaps there's some change management things that you want to communicate. So the one that's probably relevant for us in a JDE community sense is the UAT. So it comes pre-formatted with a number of tools that you can use to support the UAT process for any organization, maybe doing an R24 upgrade, you want a communications plan, you want to be able to look at how to leverage the UAT, OGL for UAT. And this is just basically saying, here's some examples of what we can do. And I'll just preview that as well. So this is basically saying, attention UAT users, this is the message as I showed you earlier. UAT starts on this date. Here's where your test scripts are. It's a link to SharePoint. Here's where you track your results. It's another link to perhaps Jira or another web-based application. But you can use it as an opportunity to trigger some ideas to further use OGL across not just your traditional training needs. I'm then going to take you through some of the content creation and management process, showcase some of the features that OGL has in relation to translation into languages, the ease of which content can be created. I'll talk about the work that we've done from a Steltex perspective, building out all of the standard process guides that form the basis for the solution. And I'll also showcase some of the AI capability that Oracle have introduced into OGL, which is certainly a game changer when it comes to the content creation and the content curation is managed, created, and where we pre-ship all the Steltex pre-built content. So each one of these rows represents content or a process guide. So for example, enter a purchase order. You can see we can filter them by product. So to the earlier point or comment, it's not just for JDE. So we have organizations using OGL across ServiceNow, across other web-based applications. But such as the level of integration with JDE, I can look at just my training material that I've developed for procurement. And here's that guide that I've been running in the actual application. So that's been created. Couple of features. The solution has very good version control, version history. So you can track the changes to your training material. It does it automatically, and you can restore it or preview it at a particular point in time, which is what you're seeing on the right-hand side there. You can see this one's had 58 revisions, which is probably extreme, but it does track it's changed, who changed it, when they changed it, what they changed, and you can always restore to a previous version. So great when you're in an environment where you need to have some compliance and controls around your training material, and there's a number of industries that do have that. I can quickly go into the simple editor. I'll just launch. And this is where people normally want to understand how easy or difficult is it to create the content. And many people have had experience with tools like UPK, which were in its day great, but the comparison between the two is stark. The average development time for a process guide in JDE is 30 minutes. In UPK speak, that would have been 3 to 4 hours. So we can, you get the pre-shipped content from Steltex, but which you can update, which takes even less than that time I just mentioned, or you can create content from scratch, which takes, once you get assimilated with a tool, you can create a basic guide very simply in a sort of 30-minute time frame. Then the process of editing and updating it is pretty straightforward. You get an editor which you can make updates to. You can collaborate with other content curators, and you can share the experience in there. A couple other features I'll show you. So multilingual. So I've got a few favorite features, if you've probably heard, but one of my other favorite features of the tool, and I'll show you back in the JD application, it uses, and this is the first, I suppose, instance where OGL, which is an Oracle SaaS product, is using the underlying cloud infrastructure, so OCI, which has machine learning translation services. It's embedded within OGL. So what this means is we can record the content once, typically in English. So I've recorded a process for create a purchase order. I can choose what languages that I would like to publish it to. And by clicking a button, so if I wanted to add a new language, Norwegian, for example, all I need to do there is save and exit. And OCI, the Learning Translation Service, will convert that automatically to Norwegian. Then that language will be available to any user that has specified in JDE or within OGL that Norwegian is their default language. It's actually got more, this is one for you, Paul, but it's got more language capability than JDE does natively, which is a pretty impressive. So I can go and look at all the languages that we've got content for. I'll just choose for today's purposes Spanish. So this is content where we've created in English, but automatically converted it to Spanish in this particular instance. And I can't speak Spanish, but I'm guessing that one there is my create purchase order. So I haven't actually shown you that feature in JDE. So if I just change my default language, we do integrate into JDE as well. So if you can inherit your default language. So I'm just going to change. If there's nothing for Spanish, I'll change it to a language I know there is. Basically, it's just restarting the widget. It's going to display only the training material. So the create stock purchase order example that I was running before in Spanish. And it's translated. This was the same message that I showed you before when I was saying I started the create stock purchase order guide from the beginning. It's going to show me the policy information. It's going to show me the step guide. That's the exact same guide that's automatically been translated to Spanish. So if you've got an organization with multilingual or multi-country requirements, this tool has the ability to record the process once, automatically propagate it out to multiple languages. There is a quick editor and a mass update utility if there's a particular term or phrase which hasn't translated very well, and I have found the translation tool very good. It does support all of that. A little help from, again, an OCI feature, which is the generative AI capability that OGL is leveraging to create training content. So what has recently been added to the OGL capability is the ability to use the AI assistant to automatically create training content. And the example we're doing here is we're using AI. I'm basically asking it to create an announcement about month end. The OCI AI engine is going to go away and do that. And I can then create a message. So the OGL AI assistant has basically just understood what I've asked it and come up with this as the default. Interestingly enough, it also supports multi-language. So if I did that same request, conscious of time, if I did that and I said I wanted it in Spanish, it'll generate that same message in Spanish. So create a summary of JD Edwards release 24 enhancements. So the use case here is we're about to go live with release 24. And this is going to do Paul out of a job, I think. What it's going to do now is
wonderful.
welcome information. Yeah. So what it's done is it's gone and used the underlying OCI AI service to summarize the features that are available in release 24, which you can use as a basis for a message. Release 24 is coming up. Here's the new features. I can copy, paste that, and create a message in, as I said before, under 10 seconds. That can be multilingual. You can also ask it to incorporate online references or online examples. You probably didn't see the other two examples, which I won't have time for today, was to create a message about watch this notification with online examples. It does that. Create a training guide, and this is where it's really powerful. Create a training guide on Orchestrator, and it'll create a training guide that you can then use OGL to create an end user training guide on. The solution can be used from day one. If you're doing a JDE implementation, a JDE upgrade, you can enable through the pre-built process guides that Steltix offers you standard processes from day one without having a JDE environment available. You can tune the videos, you can tune the step-by-step guides. We've seen how it supports the UAT process through communications, the test scripts, and this is one of the examples that one of our clients have used extensively is to support the UAT process. Obviously go live and then beyond from a support. It is natively integrated into JDE, so you don't have to worry about from a support perspective. It's fully capable of linking into. It runs across your JDE standard objects and customizations. Included within the license is, if you procure the solution, the ability to run it on JDE and two other non-web-based applications, ServiceNow, UKG, for example, or AppShare. We can, with approval from Oracle, if you're still paying UPK support, get that removed from your ongoing maintenance. And there is a feature which we've worked on with Oracle to migrate UPK content. So automatically migrate UPK content into OGL. There's lots of other customer testimonials. So there's a few of the team on the call today. So thank you that have embraced OGL to support their future systems initiative to re-implement JD 9.2. It's a cornerstone of their strategy to enable their 12,000 plus employees to be trained in the actual solution. So
Fulton Hogan's been in business since 1933 and today is one of Australasia's largest civil and infrastructure businesses. There's more than 10,000 Fulton Hogan team members and we all live and breathe the company's purpose of creating, connecting and caring for communities. Their exclusive collaboration with Oracle to enable OGL became a natural extension of their engagement with us. Partnering with Steltex is a great fit for Fulton Hogan and the support from the team to start our OGL journey has made a difference in steering us down the aligned end goal for our training content. The general feedback that we've had so far about OGL is the excitement. People are wanting to see the in-app widget working and being able to pivot off our different business processes that form part of our JD 9.2 solution. Users are interested in being able to actually train on their own and having those step-by-step guides that they can follow their nose. Absolutely, this is a no-brainer. Steltex has technical product knowledge, customer training capability and the support is exceptional. OGL is definitely the right product for our future solution and it's a pretty exciting leap forward for Fulton Hogan on our digital transformation journey.
We'll be presenting with Agnico on the 2nd of October in Denver at InFocus, one of the flagship Quest events with Paul and his team. If you've liked what you've seen and you're attending that event and or want a one-on-one, we'll have a booth there that I'm more than happy to do a personalized demonstration.
We have 3 sessions at InFocus. We'll be there. So Dan is not just sharing Agnico Eagle's OGL story, but also sharing his thoughts on e-invoicing and the use case of Greymont. And one of our other colleagues and technology officer, Johan Tekens, demoing AI and how AI agents can execute transactions in JD Edwards. Booth 304, please put that in your diaries.